Greetings everyone and welcome. I'm the Chancellor Soul Mike Boone. You tune in to another edition of Soul Facts, a show highlighting the history of music of legendary artists and preserving their legacies. In this edition features a lady who was one of the most gifted, versatile vocalists of the 1950s throughout the 1980s that also helped pioneer and emerge a new genre in music called rock and roll. Soul Fact Spotlight artist, Miss Lavern Baker. Lavern Baker was born under her given name, Dolores Evans, in Chicago, Illinois, on Monday, November 11, 1929. Music royalty ran in her family. Her aunt Merlene Johnson, her father's sister, was known as a Yaz girl, was mildly a successful blues singer in the 1930s and 1940s. Evans was also the niece of blues great Memphis Minnie. At the age of 13, Dolores was recording with Lester Melrose, a producer at RCA Victor Records, who worked with the Evans relatives, produced an unknown single on her under a different name, which sold poorly and is now a rare find. In her early teens, Dolores began singing in after-hour joints, but after reaching the legal cabaret age of 17, she was whisked in Chicago's Club de Lisa and was given a set of baggy, ragged clothes and billed as Little Miss Sharecropper, as a tribute act to a novelty Chicago blues singer named Little Miss Cornshucks, whose act was a representation of an innocent, unsophisticated farm girl. Little Miss Cornshuck had personal issues. She was an alcoholic that was married to a drug dealer that interfered with her success. But Cornshuck was so popular, the Club de Lisa owners wanted to put on an act that capitalized on that particular popularity of Miss Cornshucks. Dolores, not exactly ecstatic about the act, gave it her all in all her performances, establishing a reputation as an excellent blues singer, first in Chicago and Detroit, and later in the Midwest. While she was at the Club de Lisa, she met bandleader-composer Fletcher Henderson, who wrote a song for her called When I'm in a Crying Mood. Evans recorded the song for Columbia Records in 1947, but it was never released. That same year, Dolores relocated to Detroit, where she sang at the Flame Show Bar and impressed the club manager Al Green so much, he became her personal manager. Evans was briefly married to a post office worker named Eugene Williams and now billed herself as Dolores Williams and wrote songs under the same moniker. In 1949, Evans became the vocalist for the Eddie Sugarman Pennigan Orchestra and had a couple of singles on RCA, including I Wonder Baby and Easy Baby, with featured vocals provided by Eddie Pennigan. Miss Sharecropper connected with the Red Sanders Orchestra and recorded an unreleased single called Sharecropper Boogie on Columbia Records in 1950. Then she appeared on national records under the name Miss Sharecropper with two platters, I've Tried, back with How Long.
I've tried and I've tried, oh, I've tried. Tell me how long have a man been gone? Oh, tell me how long have a man been gone?
And I Wanna Rock, back with Take Out Some Time.
I'm a rockin' mama. Ooh, I'm a rockin' mama. I'm a rockin' mama, and I'll rock your blues away. Please take out some time, baby, and love me if you please.
Around 1951, Dolores became very weary of the sharecropper image and asked her manager Al Green can she let go of the character. The same year, Columbia and the sub-label OK released some singles by her, credited as B. Baker, taking her father's last name, Baker.
Oh, to set my soul at ease.
In 1952, Dolores joined the Todd Rhodes Orchestra as a girl vocalist, replacing Kitty Stevenson. Dolores Lavern Evans Williams was finally name changed to Lavern Baker. Baker made 4 well-received records with Todd Rhodes and toured with his band in Europe in 1953. With great adulation from the Europeans, Baker returned to the U.S. looking for a solid recording opportunity, just being another traveling band vocalist.
I promise I'll be good to you.
Just walking in the rain.
Lavern Baker played an integral role in teaching a young and up-and-coming singer named Johnny Ray on how to sing the blues. Baker worked with Ray and taught him how to interpret a lyric and his animated stage presence. Johnny Ray was deaf in his left ear, but he could sing a note from here to Timbuktu. He went on to become a singing sensation in the early 1950s. Sadly, he died from liver failure at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles on Saturday, February 24, 1990.
It's no secret you feel better if you cry.
Lavern Baker inked a deal with Atlantic Records in 1953 as a solo artist. Collaborating with Atlantic Records founder Ahmet Ontagon and newly vice president Jerry Wexler, they wrote a couple of songs, including Soul on Fire, backed with How Can You Leave a Man Like This? The session took place on Friday, June 19, 1953, and issued as a single in August.
But now you set my soul on fire, and I really had my fun. Yes, he cools me, then he'll fool me. How can you leave a man like this? My life's so short.
Another Baker session in March 1954 produced 2 uncharted similar torch songs, I'm Living My Life for You, and I Can't Hold Out Any Longer.
I'm living my life for you. I'll always stand by your side when shadows fall. I can't hold out any longer. My heart cries out for your kiss.
Soul on Fire and I'm Living My Life for You were not the breakthrough songs Atlantic were looking for, but a third session produced a song that would make up for lost time. On Wednesday, October 20th, 1954, Lavern Baker revised the 1948 Lonnie Johnson hit Tomorrow Night, adding a gospel flavor to it.
Will you be with me when the moon is bright?
But it was songwriter Winfred Scott, who's a part of the group called Accused, wrote a masterpiece composition called Twiddly Dee, using rhythms of Latin tempo samba music popularized in the 1930s and the 1940s. The song was recorded in the offices of Atlantic Records. Believe it or not, 52 takes were made during the recording session of Twiddly Dee. In the studio, Lavern was in a giddy, silly mood and started clowning around with the guys and came up with this little ditty line that made the song memorable. Humpy dum bump bump. Armand Octagon and Winfred Scott screamed, "That's it!" And they used it as the bridge of the song.
Hubba, hubba, honey-do, I'm gonna keep my eyes on you. Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly-do.
With Sam the Man Taylor on tenor sax, along with the Landing House session players, and the background vocals provided by the Qs, known as the Gliders, Tweedly Dee, backed by Tomorrow Night,
Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly-dee. I'm as happy as can be. Tomorrow night, will you remember what you said tonight?
entered the R&B charts on January 15, 1955, settling down for a stay of 14 weeks, hitting number 4 for a total of 11 weeks. On the pop charts, it hit number 14. Tweedly Dee proved to be one of Lavern Baker's biggest hits of her career, but it also proved to be a big problem in the music industry. As the song continued to gain popularity, majority of the mainstream pop radio stations around the country refused to play R&B music. So major record companies began covering music of black artists because the songs were exceptional and they could make a ton of money. Pop singer Georgia Gibbs recorded a cover version of Tweedly Dee, note for note, from Lavern Baker's vocals using the same musical arrangements.
Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly dee. I'm as happy as can be.
Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly-dee. I'm as happy as can be.
Legend has it that the company Mercury Records employed the same musicians from Baker's Atlantic sessions, including the Qs, as background vocalists.
Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly dee.
Released on Mercury Records, Georgia Gibbs' version of Tweedly Dee hit number 2 pop in 1955 and sold over 1 million copies. Believe it or not, Glenn Osler and his orchestra was credited as the studio musicians on the single.
Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly dee.
Audiences were finding out about Georgia Gibbs' version because of heavy radio airplay, while Lavern Baker received less. Lavern would eventually lose out on record sales and new fans who might have enjoyed her other record releases because of radio segregation. Lavern Baker was so irate over her unfair treatment, she lobbied Congressman Charles Diggs Jr. for assistance in copyright violation. Diggs was the first black congressman for Michigan and a pioneer in the civil rights movement. He rose to fame in 1955 when he attended and monitored the trial of accused killers of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old black teenager who was murdered because he was accused of whistling at a white woman, which years later turned out to be a lie. Baker wrote an open letter to Congressman Diggs. The letter requested the revision of the Copyright Act of 1909, Saturday, February 26, 1955, stating, "After an investigation of the facts, you might see some wisdom in introducing a law to make it illegal to duplicate another's work. It's not that I mind someone singing a song that I wrote or have written for me by someone, but I bitterly resent their arrogance in thefting my music note for note." Diggs disregarded her letter and the requested was denied. The result was a publicity campaign by Baker and the unwelcome attention it drew to the racial practices of the music industry towards African Americans at the time. Tweedly Dee was also covered by Teresa Brewer in 1955.
Tweedly, tweedly, tweedly dee. I'm as happy as can be.
In April 1955, Lavern Baker made an appearance at radio jock Alan Freed's show at the Brooklyn Paramount in New York City, sharing the bill with the Moonglows, the Penguins, the Clovers, B.B. King, and Danny Overby.
There ain't nothing you can tell me I don't already know. I got a rocket in my pocket and I'm ready to go.
Atlantic Records issued more charter hits on Lavern Baker and the Gliders, including some great double-siders like Bop Ting-a-Ling, number 3 R&B, back with That's All I Need, number 9 R&B during the spring of 1955.
Bop ting-a-ling, you handsome thing. I like to get next to you. Do-a-diddy, you walk so pretty. You thrill me through and through. 2 arms that I can turn to. That's all I need. 2 lips that I can run to. That's all I need.
Play It Fair, back with That Lucky Old Son, number 2 R&B during the fall of 1955.
If you must play the game, play it fair. While that lucky old son got nothing to do but roll around the heaven all day.
My Happiness Forever, number 13 R&B, back with Get Up, You Sleepyhead, number 15 R&B during the spring of 1956.
My happiness, my happiness. A little birdie with a yellow bill hopped upon my windowsill. He said, get up, you sleepyhead.
Still, number 4 R&B, back with I Can't Love You Enough, number 7 R&B during the fall of 1956.
I'm still, I'm still in love with you. I can't hold you enough, I can't hug you enough, I can't love you enough to suit me.
Baker's 7th Atlantic single, Fee Fee Fi Fum, back with I'll Do the Same for You, failed the chart. But a cream of the crop tune was when the company issued Tra-La-La, another classic Latin flavor clone to Tweedly Dee, back with another swinging bop dance tune called Jim Dandy, composed by songwriting great Lincoln Chase. Tra-La-La was featured by Lavern Baker in the 1956 Alan Freed jukebox musical movie Rock, Rock, Rock.
Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, you're as sweet as a candy bar.
Simultaneously gaining much airplay and sales.
I'm so happy that I could cry. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, you're as cute as a movie star.
What Atlanta didn't anticipate was his B-side Jim Dandy becoming an overwhelming success. Recorded Wednesday, December 21st, 1955, it broke into the charts on December 15th, 1956.
Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Go Jim Dandy. Go Jim Dandy.
Jim Dandy hit number 1 R&B, number 1 on the disc jockey's poll, and number 3 on the best-selling list, while jocks around the country spun the platter in heavy rotation.
Of course, Jim Dandy to the rescue. Go Jim Dandy. Go Jim Dandy.
Mercury artist Georgia Gibbs attempted to cover 2 more R&B songs, including Lavern Baker's Tra-La-La, climbing to the number 24 position on the pop charts.
Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, you're as sweet as a candy bar. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, I'm so happy that I could cry.
And Etta James with Roll With Me Henry, retitled Dance With Me Henry, charting number 24 pop, while Baker's Jim Dandy crossover pop chart position was number 17.
Dance with me, Henry.
Don't be baby,
Rock with me, Henry.
any old time.
Talk to me, Henry.
Don't change your mind.
Jim Dandy to the rescue.
What do I have to do?
The Mercury imprint announced that after this issue of Dance With Me Henry, Georgia Gibb would no longer cover R&B songs because of the bad publicity she's been getting by the opposition, and the record company's assumption that the record buying public, meaning the white kids, began to dislike the R&B originals. Oh, how wrong they were. Pop stations like New York WINS jock Alan Freed continue to promote and support the R&B original songs while banning white cover tunes of R&B artists unless the white artists recorded the song in their own style and arrangements, not the note-for-note vocals. Other radio stations around the country began to follow suit. Cashbox magazine awarded Lavern Baker for Best Female R&B Vocalist of 1956.
Jim Danny to the rescue. Jim Danny to the rescue.
An LP entitled Lavern Baker Rock and Roll Atlantic 8007 series was issued in 1957.
On a mountain top, 30,000 feet drop.
Jim Danny was such a success that songwriter Lincoln Chase was recruited to do a follow-up. Jim Danny got married.
Jim Danny done fell in love. Jim Danny done fell in love. Jim Danny done fell in love. Love Jim Danny. Love Jim Danny.
The song hit number 7 R&B in June 1957, but unsuccessfully charted number 76 on the pop charts.
Left at night on his honeymoon.
It was back with The Game of Love, a 1 and a 2.
A 1 and a 2 and a I love you. I love you. I love you. I hope and I hope that you love me too. Let's play the game of love.
Jim Danny got married. Love Jim Danny. Love Jim Danny.
Lavern Baker journeyed on a tour to Australia in 1957, along with the Platters, Joe Turner, and Bill Haley in the Comets. At the airport before her flight, Baker took out some insurance with Georgia Gibb named as the beneficiary. It was sent to Gibbs with a note stating that if anything happens to her, she didn't want Gibbs to lose any money for not being able to cover her records. Upon her return to the States, Lavern was one of the guests on Alan Freed's Second Half show with Ivory Joe Hunter, Charlie Grace, and Jimmy Bowens. Baker also appeared on the Milk Grant's Teen Dance Party show in Washington, D.C. on Monday, May 27, 1957. In late 1957, Atlantic issued Humpty Dumpty Hard, back with Love Me Right, which Baker featured in the Alan Freed film Mr. Rock and Roll, released in October of 1957, that starred Little Richard, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, Chuck Berry, Clyde McPhatter, the Moonglows, and Brooke Benton.
I've got a Humpty Dumpty heart. I've got a Humpty Dumpty heart. I fell for you right from the start.
You can haunt me, you can taunt me, but if you want me, baby, you gotta love me right in the morning.
Around this time, Lavern Baker married comedian Slappy White in 1959.
You want to please me, love me, baby, love me right in the morning.
Atlantic Records issued more hit singles on Lavern Baker, including It's So Fine, back with Why Baby Why, charting number 24 in October of 1958.
But it's so fine, yeah, it's so fine, it's so fine, baba bebop,
Why, baby, why
do you treat me this way?
And her third biggest hit of her career, I Cried a Tear, back with Dixie-Billy, that peaked at number 2 on the R&B charts and number 6 on the pop charts.
I cried a tear because of you.
The great King Curtis plays beautiful sax on this song that is outstanding.
Because we're through. San Francisco to Chicago, right through Philly, New York's doing Dixie dress.
I Waited Too Long, composed by Neil Sedaka and Howard Greenfield, back with You're Teasing Me. Number 5 R&B and number 33 pop of 1959.
I waited too long, and now we're apart. I never told you what I feel in my heart. Baby, can't you see you're teasing me?
The gospel tingle So High, So Low, back with If You Love Me. Number 12 R&B, 1959.
My love is so high, you can't get over it. So low, you can't get under it. So wide, you can't get around it. You must come into my heart. If you love me, really love me, let it happen. I won't care.
Tiny Tim, back with For Love of You. Number 18 R&B in late 1959.
Girls, his name is Tiny Tim, and if you go out with him, you will soon discover Tiny Tim is a lover from his heart, and he'll always try to do his part.
For love of you, my heart is aching now. For love of you, it's almost breaking now.
The classic Faye Adams 1953 remake of Shake a Hand, back with Mañana. Number 13 R&B, March 14th, 1960.
Shake a hand, shake a hand. Shake a hand, shake a hand. Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
Bumblebee, back with My Time Will Come in August of 1960.
Chewy, you hurt me like a bee. A bumblebee, a evil bumblebee.
Including duets with Benny King with A Help Each Other Romance, back with How Often in 1960.
Let's make it all help each other romance.
And with great bass singer Jimmy Riggs of the legendary Ravens, You're the Boss, back with I'll Never Be Free in 1961.
Baby, you got me beat up and down, inside and across. Ooh, yeah.
But in the middle of the night, when the moon is shining bright, you're the boss. Shake a hand, shake a hand.
Lavern Baker was nominated a Grammy for Best R&B Performance in 1961 for Shake a Hand. But lost to Ray Charles, Let the Good Times Roll.
Hey, everybody, let's have some fun. You only live but once, and when you're dead, you're done. So let the good time roll. I say let the good time roll.
I used to smoke, I used to drink.
Another great classic by Lavern Baker was Save, composed by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stroller and arranged by veteran legendary songwriter Howard Biggs.
Oh yeah, but now I'm standing on this corner, praying for me and you.
Produced by Lieber and Stroller in New York on Wednesday, December 7, 1960, the song featured an all-star cast of musicians such as Dick Vance and Taft Jordan on trumpet, Rudy Powell on alto sax, Al Sears tenor sax, Bert 88 Keys on piano, Linton Mitchell on organ, and future producer great Phil Spector on guitar, A.B. Baker on bass, and on drums, Gary Chester and Styx Evans. A revival meeting rocker.
All night long. But now I'm standing on this corner, I know right from wrong.
Save, Back with Don Juan,
That's why I'm saved. I'm saved. People, let me tell you about a kingdom come. Don Juan, your money's gone. And when your money is gone, Don, your baby's gone.
hit number 17 R&B on May 29th, 1961.
That's why I'm saved.
The song was nominated for a Grammy for Best R&B Recording of 1962, but lost to Ray Charles' Hit the Road Jack.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
I used to smoke. I used to drink.
7 years later, Elvis Presley featured the song on his Elvis 68 special that aired Tuesday, December 3rd, 1968.
Oh, yeah. But now I'm standing on this corner praying for me and you.
Lavern Baker's last top 10 R&B hit was the classic CC Rider, a blues standard first recorded by Ma Rainey as a B-side on Paramount Records in 1925 with Louis Armstrong on cornet. Credited to his original title CC Rider, spelled S-E-E, produced by Ahmet Octagon, the song's arrangement was patterned for the twist and mashed potato generation of the 1960s.
Well, you made me love you. Now your girl has a come. What I say?
Back with The Story of My Love, I Had a Dream,
It was you. That's the story of it was you. That's the story of my love. Well, see, CC Rider.
CC Rider charted number 9 R&B on January 12, 1963.
Lord, 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 CC Rider. See what you have done.
Lavern Baker soon left Atlantic Records in 1964 after 10 years with the company. Her last single with the label was the superlative Fly Me to the Moon. Back with I Ain't Gonna Cry No More, number 31 R&B, March 6, 1965, under the supervision of songwriter, arranger, producer Bert Burns.
In other words, hold my hand. Well, I ain't gonna cry no more, no more. I ain't gonna cry no more. The sun's finally shining on my back door. I ain't gonna cry no more.
Lavern Baker reached the pinnacle with Atlantic Records, 33 single releases, and other classic LPs, including Lavern 1956, Lavern Baker 1957, Lavern Baker Sings Bessie Smith 1958, Blues Ballads 1959, Precious Memories 1959, Save 1961, CC Rider 1962. Baker was a part of an after theater LP version of Richard Rodgers' Broadway musical of No Strings, featuring the vocals of Chris Connor, flutist great Herbie Mann, and cabaret singer Bobby Short, issued in 1962. Also, the Best of Lavern Baker 14 all-time hits was issued in 1963. In 1971, Atlantic Records sublabel Atco released a compilation of Baker's hits entitled Lavern Baker, Her Greatest Hits. After 12 years with Atlantic, Lavern Baker signed with Brunswick Records in 1965. She recorded 6 uncharted singles for the imprint, including a rare novelty song called Batman to the Rescue, a nod to the ongoing Batman craze from the ABC TV series starring Adam West as Bruce Wayne Batman and Burt Ward as Dick Grayson Robin. Composed by songwriter Leakin Chase, who by this time was working with singer Shirley Ellis, Batman to the Rescue was modeled after Baker's 1956 hit Jim Dandy.
Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Jim Dandy to the rescue. Go Jim Dandy. Go Jim Dandy. Batman to the rescue. Batman to the rescue. Batman
song was back with Call Me Darling and issued as a single in mid-1966.
Call me darling, call me sweetheart, call me dear.
However, she did have one charted Brunswick hit single in early 1966, a duet with Jackie Wilson entitled Think Twice, back with Please Don't Hurt Me, charting number 37 R&B on February 19th of 1966.
I say you better think twice before you walk out that door. I've got news for you, little boy. You ain't getting back here no more.
Think Twice, version X.
A XXX rated version of Think Twice was recorded at the same session but never released because of its profanity and rated XXX. The song eventually surfaced in the UK and has been issued on a couple of Jackie Wilson's compilation CDs.
For you, little boy. You ain't getting back here no more.
Baker's last single on Brunswick was I'm the One to Do It, back with Baby, released in 1969.
I'm the one to do it. Yes, I am. I'm the one you're looking for, baby. Sweet baby.
An LP entitled Let Me Belong to You was issued on Brunswick in 1970. I'm the One to Do It was recorded by Jackie Wilson in 1967 and featured as the B-side to his million-selling Grammy-nominated hit Higher and Higher.
Then I'm the girl to see. I can't stop walking, my darling, but I sure know how to end misery.
In 1969, Lavern, Baker, and husband, comedian Slappy White, separated, but never got a divorce. Baker then signed on for a USO tour right afterwards. After a trip to Vietnam, she became seriously ill with bronchial pneumonia and recovered at the U.S. Naval Base in Subic Bay in the Philippines. A friend of hers recommended that she stay on as an entertainment director at the Marines Corps Staff NCO Club located there, where Lavern remained for 22 years. She returned to the U.S. after the base closed in 1988. That same year, Lavern performed at Madison Square Garden for the Atlantic Records' 40th anniversary. She then appeared on various movie soundtracks, such as Shag in 1989, Dick Tracy 1990, and A Rage in Harlem 1991, all issued on CD. Baker also performed a song for Alan Park's film Angel Heart in 1987, starring Lisa Bonet, which appeared as a vinyl soundtrack album, but for some contractual reasons was not included on later CD releases. Lavern Baker made her Broadway debut on the award-winning musical Black and Blue, replacing the star role played by Ruth Brown in 1990. In 1991, Rhino Records issued a new album entitled Live in Hollywood, recorded at the Hollywood Roosevelt Cinegrill, along with a compilation of her greatest Atlantic hits called Soul on Fire. In 1990, Baker was among the 8 recipients of the R&B Pioneer Awards Foundation. In 1991, she became the second female solo artist inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, followed by Aretha Franklin in 1987.
I've always won.
In 1992, Lavern Baker recorded a well-crafted studio album entitled Woke Up This Morning for DRG Records. During this time, Baker was suffering from diabetes and had both of her legs amputated, but still continued to perform live. She made her last recording, Jump Into the Fire, for the 1995 Harry Nilsson tribute CD, For the Love of Harry, released on the Music Masters label. Lavern's last performance was at the Hollywood Roosevelt in Los Angeles, California, with guest legendary singers Linda Hopkins and Heather Brooks. Sadly, Lavern Baker died of cardiovascular disease and a stroke at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan, New York on Monday, March 10th, 1997, at the age of 67. She was buried in an unmarked plot at Maple Grove Cemetery in Kew Gardens, New York. Some local historians raised funds for her headstone, which was erected on Sunday, May 4th, 2008. With her seductive soul on fire, Lavern Baker vocally combined the fusion of blues, jazz, and R&B that set the stage for the emergence of rock and roll during the 1950s. Her contribution in the music world should be held in esteem as one of the most prominent, outstanding artists in history. When she received the R&B Pioneer Award, Lavern Baker expressed her thoughts by saying, "As we say in church, I look back at a job well done. It's like when God takes you away, you deserve your pedestal. And I have earned this reward. I say, well done, Miss Baker. Well done. Let's just be thankful that the music outlives the woman. Until we meet again musically, I am the Chancellor of Soul."
I'm as happy as can be. Jiminy crickets, Jiminy Jack, you make my heart go clickety clack.
Soul Facts, a show written, created, produced, and copywritten by the Chancellor of Soul, Mike Boone, and is a non-profit music presentation.